entire Dvar Torah that I had prepared for tonight based on a text that was found in a machzor that has traditionally been used. And then when I noticed in our machzor that one key word is missing, because as the machzor has unfolded over the years, words had been added and words have been subtracted, and this one happens to be one of the words that was subtracted, and it messed up the whole Dvar Torah. So I went to plan B, because thankfully I was taught when I was an assistant rabbi that you should always have another Dvar Torah up your sleeve. You never know when someone's going to ask you to share some words of Torah. So I want to share a secondary idea with you. But before I do, I want to mention how the Cantor's davening transports me back to my days at the seminary. As soon as you begin to hear the High Holiday Nusach, as a rabbinical school student, we were required to learn the Nusach so that if we were ever in a position to have to do what's referred to as a kolbo in rabbinical school, and sometimes when you first get ordained, you're required to do most everything in the shul. So everything from vacuuming to all of the davening and all of the Torah reading. And so we were required to learn it in a cursory way. And so I remember learning a lot of the Nusach just for the high holidays, so that I could pass those exams. But I do remember walking the halls of the seminary and hearing the cantoral school students, and always being amazed by it. And so it just transports me back between wearing the talit that you wear from your ordination and the sound of the melodies. I feel like I'm 26 years old again and back in the seminary. So thank you so much. It literally gives me goosebumps. And I appreciate that. And I know that over the course of the next few days and the next week and a half, that many members of our shul, whether they're here in person or they're home live streaming, will feel that exact same thing. And so thank you in advance for that. Let me share one idea from you. If you want, you can look in your machzorim on page 17. So much of this machzor is brilliant. It's brilliant in so many different ways, and I can't encourage people enough, whether you're at home or here in the synagogue, to wander about the prayer book, to wander through the pages of the machzor so that you can enjoy the full benefit of what this machzor has to offer. When we moved to this machzor about 5 years ago, from what we had been traditionally using here in the congregation, or maybe it was longer, maybe 10 years ago, I encouraged people to look for the various additions to this machzor, and you can find them in the pages on the sides, you can find them underneath. And I would, of course, encourage you to look in the very back of the machzor, because there is a section known as the glossary, and you can look up keywords. But then there are citations in the very back of the machzor that tell you where these specific readings or additions find their origins. This paragraph on page 17 at the bottom or the middle of the page is actually taken from a Prague machzor in the 17th century. And Jules Harlow, who is a master poet, who was responsible for putting together many of the sidurim and machzorim of our movement half a generation ago, a brilliant liturgist and poet. And he wrote this beautiful English translation, but I want to focus on one Hebrew word. If you look at the second line of the second paragraph, the second to last word, if you can see, it says, "V'nit yadecha, nit yad chadecha, v'nit yad chadetha," right? Be'olamecha, that God unified the world. When God created the world, it refers to, of course, Rosh Hashannah, which is Hayom Harat Olam, the day that God brought the world into being. And so in reference to that, God, this poet of the 17th century, says that God unified the world. Because if you recall, at the beginning of Genesis, the world was Haytak Tohu Vavohu. It was utter chaos. That is to suggest the physics of what was going on in the world at the time, according to our biblical tradition, was there was this matter floating around. God simply brought it together and organized it into the universe that we currently have. It's a theological challenge, but the concept is still easy to understand, and that is to organize matter in such a way that it matters. And that's the genius of our world, and that is that God has created order out of chaos. But what I find most powerful about this statement is that we too arrive in this moment somewhat scattered. We arrive in this moment at the high holidays and we are overwhelmed sometimes, at least confused a little bit of the time, by the various feelings that we have. Some of us are feeling extraordinary senses of loss because of the pandemic that occurred, because of the natural evolution of life, of humanity. And we feel a sense of loss for the people who are not here at our tables. For some of us, we are experiencing what I would refer to as pre-grieving, because we know there are those in our lives who are hanging in the balance. Some of us are overjoyed that we have survived and been in this moment. Some of us are worried about businesses that are failing. Some of us have started new careers and wonder about whether that will be successful. Some of us look to extraordinary gains that will be made in the coming year and the smachot that we will celebrate. And so because of all of those varied emotions, we arrive at this moment somewhat scattered, all over the place, not knowing how to feel. And this word says to us that God helps us in this moment to find some unity of purpose, some unity of existence, some solidarity with others around us. This word says that God not only unifies the universe, but God unifies us in this moment with singular purpose and meaning. I pray that over the course of the next 3 days, and then the 10 days that start now, that we're able to find some sense of wholeness, of shlemut, of shalom, of peace and fullness, so that we can enjoy these hours. Not like the non-Jewish world celebrates the new year by getting drunk and passing out in Times Square, but by doing what is uniquely Jewish, and that is imbuing time with meaning, by suggesting that these 3 days can change our course and allow us to move forward with a sense of satisfaction, a sense of wholeness, a sense of internal peace. This word, so difficult to pronounce, is even more difficult to accomplish, because finding wholeness and peace within ourselves is so often lost. I pray for all of us that we can find this shlemut, this sense of wholeness, this sense of unity of purpose, this sense of meaning that the High Holidays offers us as a gift for the coming year. Shana Tova. We continue with Yigdal. We conclude with Yigdal, page 28.